Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. Hey, Dave, you're here early, and Mike hasn't commented before you came. That's a miracle. Right. Okay, so what you reading there, sir?
About eye drops.
Oh, important if you have an eye problem. Eye drops are. Yeah. Highly recommend. I went through a stage of my life where I had to use. There was one time I had to use eye drops every half an hour.
Oh, that's bad.
Due to an incident, I was at the hospital emergency overnight and had to have them in my eyes every half an hour.
There we go. Just got one in there.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Usually, just one drop is good.
Yeah. Now I can see through the wall.
super sight, eh? Yeah.
Super drops.
I essentially do have about one. I have put one eye drop in every night because I get. It's been recommended by my specialist. Okay. All right. So welcome everybody, and there's the real life of Peter and Dave in Talking Niagara. You're seeing medical treatment live on air. All right. Okay.
So eye drop.
Yeah. So City of Niagara Falls took action against illegal vacation rentals units over the weekend. Basically, there were 37 fines issued, totaling $37,000, and they were looking at 40 to 50 properties across the city. And these are basically vacation rentals rather than people who are renting out one room in their house on a bed and breakfast style type thing.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So this is a constant and forever thing, isn't it? Going on and on and on. But one of the problems now, what they've done here is they've done a raid, as they did back in Canada Day and around Christmas.
Yep.
Sort of flesh out the sort of the vacation rental units, mistakenly called B&Bs a lot, but are not B&Bs, but Airbnbs. But Airbnb is just one company, so it's a vacation rental unit, and they advertise them. So the city's gone around and look for the ones that are being advertised, and then hit the ones that are illegal.
Yeah,
and went after them. They shelled out $37,000 worth of fines, but they use the new system where they don't have to go to court, where they can lay out a fine right away. What's that system called? It started with an A.
AMPS, Automated Monetary Penalty System, and I actually think this is lazy man law stuff, because basically it means I don't agree with AMPS in any of our system, because it's totally and utterly the opposite of our entire legal system. AMPS basically operates on the principle you're guilty unless you prove yourself innocent.
Well, it sure has shortened the process for bylaw. Now, bylaw, one of the big problems with bylaw was, of course, it takes so long in court to get anything done.
I know.
And if you talk to anybody that's worked in the legal system or the property, had to do anything with bylaw in the city of Niagara Falls, and I've known a few, it is immediate. It's just so frustrating. So they go out and they do the bylaw, they do the inspection, and then there's years sometimes before they can get a judgment. Yeah. And one of the most dominant things that I remember is a lady that was a cat lady that had hundreds of cats dozens of cats in her house, and her house was becoming dilapidated. And for 2 years, bylaw went there and issued one thing after another, and of course it all got tied up at court, and there was no legal way in which they could do anything.
Yeah.
And it took them 2 years, and when they got in there, the place was full of cats that were dying, cats that had already been dead. The lady had her water had been off, and she'd been going to the toilet in pails in the basement. So, and the house was a danger to the neighborhood. So it took 2 years. And so this AMP thing is supposed to speed up the process a bit, let them get out there instead of having to deal in the courts for a long period of time when someone is abusing the law. They do it quickly. Whether that's legal, whether that's a good idea, I don't know, but I bet you that I bet you a whole lot that bylaw enforcement loves it.
Yeah, it's legal. It's legal. The only way you can challenge it is you have to basically apply for a screening and then attend the screening hearing. And without that, you got to pay the fine.
Yes. So it speeds things up, whether it's the slippery slope of lack of democracy representation. That remains to be seen. It hasn't been challenged in court, I don't think. So we'll find out.
No, AMPs have not been challenged in court, not really, because most of the fine, you're not going to go to the Supreme Court for a $300 fine, are you?
No, but somewhere along the line, someone might challenge it, and it may go up the courts a bit. Who knows? But in any case, for the meantime, I think it's probably a good thing for bylaw. It relieves them in the city from long protracted court cases, if you could even get into court.
Yeah, typically where AMP started, by the way, is that it was your traffic ticket was AMPs. So basically, what would happen with your traffic ticket, if you remember, you'd get a ticket, and it would say pay $25 within 14 days, or the fine will increase to $37 or something like that. Just use an example. Right, and if you don't pay, that within a fixed period of time, it will be added to your what do you call it? It will be added to your what's that thing called when you
taxes or whatever.
Yeah, when you renew your car tax, it will be added to that.
Oh yeah, you can't get your license renewed and so on and so forth. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So that
they use the same system with deadbeat dads.
Well,
pay your alimony, you can't get your license.
Yeah, but again, again, I get it with parking ticket. It's like you've gotten a parking ticket, you're going to pay it. You're going to, you've got no choice but to pay it realistically.
Yeah.
With AMPs. With AMPs being used for other things, I think there's something constitutionally wrong with it being used for other things. But still, anyway, putting my things aside, and okay, so basically they're looking at potentially more frequently targeting people who do this.
Yes, so they've also done a bit of an educational thing, so it's not all just coming down on them like a hammer. They've kind of educated the people. They know the ones that are the abusers, and that they also know the ones that are too ignorant, just trying to make some money, and they're trying to get them in them. Say, this is what you got to do if you want this. This is where you can have it. You can only have it in certain sections of the city, and so on and so forth. And they give them the rules and the breakdown, but they also put out a warning or a message in this article saying, if you have an Airbnb or a VRU, a vacation rental unit, that in your neighborhood you don't think is compliant with the rules, here's the
important thing here is, if Johnny rents out his spare room on Airbnb, but Johnny lives in his house, then he's not in breach of the rules. But if Johnny has a house that he used to rent out to people and now actually puts it on Airbnb or VRBO or whatever other platform there is, and has the whole house for rent for those party weekends, whether it's a party weekend or just a a quiet getaway for somebody, then that's been determined illegal.
Yes, but it also Johnny has to rent out his room in an appropriate neighborhood. There's only certain neighborhoods that you can do it in.
No, the bed and breakfast rules are actually much more wide than the vacation rental rules.
Well, this is about vacation rental.
Yeah,
right. And it says there that there's specific areas.
Yeah, there's specific areas. Yeah. And as I say, it's not the bed and breakfast; it's the vacation rentals that they're going for.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, like, if I got a spare bedroom here in my condo, I might not be able to rent it out because it might not be in the area.
No. If you've got a spare bedroom in your condo, and you put it on Airbnb as a rental, you'd probably be fine if you're in a residential neighborhood.
Oh, I thought it had to be specific neighborhood. I thought it had to be specific areas in the city.
Vacation rentals have to be in commercial tourism zoned areas, right?
So this is not a commercial tourism.
No. Yeah,
that's my point.
There's a difference.
My whole point was the district of the district or area of the city, like.
But there's a difference again. Remember, there's a difference between bed and breakfast, which can be in any residential.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about bed and breakfast. I'm talking about vacation rentals.
Yeah, vacation
rentals. Here's this here. VRUs are only permitted in specific commercial and tourist zones in Niagara Falls unless approved by the city council through a planning application and must be licensed by the municipality. So I don't know, being here on Thorlstone Road, am I within the commercial and tourist zone? So if I want to rent my room out there, I'll have to find out if it's permitted.
It's not about
this particular if this zone where I am in is a commercial and tourist zone. That's why I have to do first of all.
Yeah. Okay. To be correct, it's not rent your room. If you want to rent your apartment out, you'd have to find out whether it's zoned correctly.
No, it says anyone. The way I read it is like anyone who has a room to rent is a VRU.
No.
Anyway, here's the information. You can find the information in Niagara Falls, niagarafalls.ca/VRU.
Yeah.
And so residents who suspect an illegal VRU is operating in their neighborhood can report concerns at service.niagarafalls.ca. And more information can come of Niagara Falls.ca VRU. Okay, so rather than try to speculate whether you can have one room or your whole house,
go look there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Morning, Mike. Morning, Mike. Good to see you. Driver record, fire regulation. I don't know about driver record. Fire regulation, code regulation.
Yeah, those are all
math.
Good point. I was going to bring that up too. Like if you're starting to rent rooms in your house or have a VRU, what does the fire department say about this? What does bylaw say about this? What safety rules and regulations do you have? You know, what obligations do you have for the safety of for a
vacation rental unit? You have to actually, to get it licensed, you actually have to have fire escapes and everything properly documented.
And that's even if you only have one room and you're living in it and you're renting a room out.
No,
just a room.
No,
you still
vacation rentals.
A unit, but you're renting out a room. So that's what I'm saying. If you do the vacation rental unit that you live in, and you put, don't you have any obligation for the safety of that person?
You do, but it's a different set of rules, and they're not screening for the you renting your room out. They're screening for whole units.
But what about? So I'm asking you, what are the obligations, legal obligations for people who do the VRU where they stay in their house and rent part of it out? Or at least part of it.
The bed and breakfast has to have a fire, not a fire escape, but
that's not. I'm not saying it's a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
I'm saying that under the vacation rental unit, you can rent part of your house. like a room or two rooms or something like that.
Yeah, that's not the same. Anyway, everyone has to have a fire escape. That's for sure. All right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Okay.
okay.
Don't know that we need to say too much more about this. And yeah, anything else?
Nothing more. It's just
Yeah.
now I'm very curious. I probably have to look it up.
Yeah. All right. Falls documentary. The Falls documentary is 35 years old. So this was a 90s documentary that was done about Niagara Falls.
Yes, the reason why I put it up there is because I know the guy, Kevin McMahon, who did that documentary.
Okay.
I know the guy who did the soundtrack for that film.
Oh,
They're both very still active. The one guy is Kurt Swinghammer, who did the music for the movie, the documentary. And I know the guy that did the documentary. As a matter of fact, the guy that did the documentary interviewed me once, a long time ago, about 1977. It was about unemployment. It was about experiences on unemployment. He later became he was a very interesting fellow, Kevin. He later became a reporter in St. Catharines, and then he went on to be a documentary film. So it's a hometown boy here. And what he did is he made this documentary about about Niagara Falls, but not the kind, the touristy kind. He hit Niagara Falls. He called it the Falls, and he zoomed in on the hucksterism, like the goofy, the negative parts of tourism and how tourists are getting beat. He talked about the pollution in the water. He went over to Love Canal, talked about the pollution over there. And I never saw the documentary myself, but now that it's being brought back up, I wished I would have went to see it when it was being filmed. I was probably working. Anyway, it was 1995. I was up to my neck in
91.
91?
1991, yeah. 25.
Well, I could have gone. I was probably unemployed because there was a recession going on that time. But in any case, I brought it up, and it's going to be re-released, remastered, and in April 15th.
Dave's the guy who at 1 hour and 14 minutes is got in the placard that says extra available, only $35 a week.
Yeah. If they needed an extra, I could probably have asked him, hey, Kev, can I be an extra in your film? He probably would have thrown me in. But so actually Kevin is the guy that kind of helped us out during the blizzard of 77. We were stuck up on Thorlstone Road near Garner, and I'm in my car, and I got my feet up on my dash smoking a cigarette and watching the snow going higher and higher and higher. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I didn't dress that warm that day. I only had a coat and a T-shirt. And my doors open up, and 3 people I know just dive in because they had run out of gas and they were frozen. So they got into my car. So I threw up the heat. I looked at my gas gauge and I said, well, I got about 3/8 of a tank. I'm good for a little while. And along comes Kevin, who I knew. And he knocks on he says, Wills, he says, I know people live in that house over there. Let's go over there. It was the Grahams. And so we all trucked in, and the lady opened the door, was reluctant to let us in, but she knew Kevin, and then we went. But thereafter, people saw us going into the house. So all the other people were stuck in their car, started making it towards the house. She had over 100 people in that house.
Oh, wow.
In short order. At that time, the house was just a three-room bungalow. I went straight downstairs. They had a pool table and a shot pool. But anyways, it was Kevin that got us out of that mess.
Yeah. Okay. So 35th anniversary. You never saw the film?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to have there's a free screening in Toronto on April 15th, which I probably won't be able to go to. But it's supposed to come down here and have another screening down here in Niagara Falls, which would be really cool. And like I say, it's two hometown boys. Well, three hometown boys, right? It's Kevin, his brother, and Kurt Swinghammer was the guy who did the sound for the movie. He was very talented. You go on YouTube and you'll find Kurt Swinghammer. He lived right here down on Dorchester Road. His dad was a cop. He was the exact opposite of his father. He was kind of a hippie guy, and his father was a cop.
Yeah. Well, a cop in the 60s shows, 60s, 70s, 80s shows a lot of difference to a cop now, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, okay. Well, I wish them well with that, and thank you for the fascinating story and the local, and the connection. Okay.
So if you have a chance, when it comes down here, it's supposed to be screened in Niagara Falls after it's been screened in Toronto, and it actually had its debut down here way back when. Kevin was over the moon because it got accepted very well, and he's the guy that put the microscope on the negative things of Niagara Falls, like the tourist hucksterism and how tourists are getting beat and how there's pollution and all kinds of other things like that. So it was good that way. Like,
did it talk about cyanamide?
I don't know.
Cyanamide closed by that point.
I don't know. 91. It was still going. 91. It was still going. The 4th Avenue plant. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Curious. All right. Yeah. Because of course I wasn't around in 91, but hey.
What killed that plant was an invention that made the production of acetylene easier and faster. What was the meat and potatoes of that plant on 4th Avenue was the production of acetylene. I think an American outfit, maybe in a Canadian outfit, I don't know, came up with a quicker, easier way to make acetylene, and that pretty much killed the old plant because they were leaning heavily on their acetylene product.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Moving on. Decision to preserve the battlefield tavern, and I've got to think that we've discussed this whole issue about 5 years ago.
Yes. Well, Ruth Redmond, she moved to Niagara Falls in and around 1920s, the mid 1920s there. So she was a young woman of about in her early 20s, and she moved here, and she taught at Stanford Collegiate. And of course, Stanford Collegiate or Stanford High School is right there, very close to the battlefield. Yeah. And as you can see, what's happened to the battlefield now, if you go back far enough, the battlefield was kept very well because a lot of tourists, particularly American tourists, had heard about the Battle of Lundy's Lane, which they call the Battle of Niagara Falls. And everyone knew at that time, before the Civil War, it was probably the biggest battle that had happened that anyone had heard of at the time. And they would go up on a tower, an observation tower, and there'd be tours and stuff like that. But since then, it became commercialized, and that's what bothered her. If it hadn't been for the graveyard there, it might have been eaten up completely. Mm-hmm. So as you see, they have the Battle of Lundy's Lane banner that goes across the road there. Yeah. And Ruth Redmond is probably one of the persons that pushed for that. She wanted to preserve the history of the area. She realized the Battle of Lundy's Lane was the turning point of the war, where it was very clear that the United States was not going to win in Canada.
I went to the Battlefield Tavern actually I've been a couple of times, but all around about 6 years ago. And at the time, very nice place, but it looks like it hasn't been kept. It hasn't been maintained properly, because I glanced at it as I went up Lundy's Lane, that part of Lundy's Lane, and I don't go up there very often. That part of the lane. Whilst I do frequently go to the Esso garage there, I tend to go up Drummond Hill rather than Lundy's Lane. So when I saw it recently, I saw there was fencing around the tavern.
Maybe they have to fix it. Well, probably also, remember, you got a lot of homeless people around there too. unhoused or
well,
people without houses or
that did
whatever you
cross
want to
my
call them
mind.
nowadays.
Yeah, that crossed my mind, but it also, if it's in use, tend to be homeless people won't stay there.
Well, you don't know. They might need a place to go. They'll burn it down. Look what happened to Simon's house. All these places that were left empty have been burnt down.
I know.
So you gotta watch it. There's weirdos among the vandals, and who knows. So maybe it has to be fixed. Yeah, it needs attention. Basically, it needs to be part of the whole loop of the loop of the tourist scene and stuff like that. But she did preserve it. She bought it with her own money.
Yeah, I know.
And so I don't know. Hats off to Ruth Redmond, basically.
Yeah, Ruth
she lived
Redmond,
to be about 92 or 93 years old, I think it was. She was.
Yeah. Ruth Redmond's efforts to do this have been, very good, and the fact that she set up this trust to ensure that it was continued on was a good thing, and that it was under the stewardship of the city. But Rick is saying it was a crack house. I'm not so sure. I don't know about that.
It could have been. It could have been, it could have been somebody could have broke into it and made it a crack house. Because I don't think anybody's really looking after it. Once the city got it, our city and its history are very much different. Like they don't really care about it. Like this was the start of Canada here, and they kind of we don't like that building, we'll knock it down. We don't care about that building.
The times I went there was there were 3 or 4 people that were dressed in period uniform, who were displaying the place.
Was that in the summertime?
Yeah, of course. Not in the winter, of course. Would be uneconomic to do that in the winter.
So basically, you got to put an effort into it, and you got to get your tour companies too to drop people off. Like they go around to look at the falls and all that. What they don't do is they don't talk about the history of the place. I mean, 60% of the War of 1812 happened on this side of the river.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
60%. 6/10, maybe even more. And then if you had the burning of Buffalo and the capture of Fort Niagara, you might want to call it about 65% just in this small area from Stony Creek down to Fort Erie.
Yeah.
Huge battles. The determination of what happened to Canada was right here. And this is where we were able to hold back. Well, I'm not saying we, because I was an American. My people were all Americans at the time. So I might have been on the bad guy side.
Well, I don't see it as that. The Americans had a particular, a particular goal, which was different to the British goal at the time.
Well, they said that the Brits were really in bad shape. Yeah. They had had managed to defeat Napoleon's navy. Nelson had managed to defeat the navy, so they didn't really have to worry about that so much. But Napoleon was doing very, very well, and they were under a lot of pressure, and they had wars going on all over the place in Napoleonic Europe, and it did not look good. It did not look good. And the U.S. saw, okay, we got an opportunity here. They are tied up. Napoleon is an existential threat to Britain. It does not have the resources to protect Canada, so we'll attack it.
Yeah.
We'll take advantage of the weakness that they have here right now. And they did. So they attacked it, figured they could take Southern Ontario and Quebec, and it didn't happen. So they started, luckily for us, the Lewis and Clark expedition had gone on in 1804, and people then started thinking west rather than north, and they kind of ignored British North America and started heading west. And that kind of saved our bacon, because if they kept at it, they probably would have taken us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, okay. So, but the point being is that I think the important thing here is that the place has to be guarded in the winter. and has to be used in the summer.
I don't know what the issues are there right now. Someone says it was a crack house, but yeah, if it's not being taken care of the winter. I mean, I know people that watch a house that was bought for speculation purposes on Lundy's Lane, broken into 5-6 times a year by the same homeless people,
Okay.
no matter how many times they board it up.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to try to get in there too.
Here's
Not far from there, on Drummond Road, right where the battlefield is. We were reading about incidences where the homeless were jumping over fences and using people's hoses and barbecues. So in their backyard when they weren't there. So it could. Yeah, you never know what's going.
And here's another thing. Historical tourism is not is something that I think we don't do very well in Niagara Falls. And Rick, thank you for this particular comment. He says the name Laura Secord, right? Now, I was talking to somebody earlier in this week out of Toronto, and the name Laura Secord came up, and they said, "Okay, the chocolate company." And I'm like, yes, okay, there is a chocolate company of the name Laura Secord. But my first thought, and I'm sure your first thought, is about the historical figure Laura Secord, who ran with the cow to warn her husband that the Americans were coming.
Well, her husband was wounded, and he had been wounded, and so she didn't warn her husband. She went off to warn the troops up around Beaver Dams.
Yeah, her husband's troop, where you know what I mean. Yeah. So unfortunately, historical tourism has seemingly taken the back burner here.
Yeah, and it's a shame, because when they come and do the reenactments for the Battle of Chippewa, the Battle of Fort George, the battles of Fort Erie, and this is it's because we're ignorant, and that's what sadly, like most people in Niagara Falls could tell you who General Lee was and who Ulysses S. Grant was, and they kind of have a sort of vague feeling of what General Brock was, because certain things are named after him, but you don't see it on TV, so they see the heroes of the American Civil War and all that, and so they know all that, but they don't know their own history. Like who knows who David Thompson is? That kills me. People don't know who David Thompson is, and he is the foremost land explorer of all time. He is the land equivalent to Captain Cook.
Okay.
Like, or even we want to go farther back, Christopher Columbus kind of. He mapped and like I mentioned Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark used his maps.
Yeah.
And his stuff. Now he mapped all of what is mostly North America now, or Canada, and parts of the northern United States. But he's the foremost land explorer of all time. His charts and stuff were used for well over 100 years after he did all his explorations. The Indians call him Cuckoo Sin, something like that, which means stargazer, because that's where he would get his orientations from. And yet nobody knows who he is. Yeah, he's the greatest land explorer of all time. Nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, and probably Cook takes that title as the sea explorer, over and above Christopher Columbus, because he went further. But that's about it.
Well, yeah, he had much more benign. Like when Captain Cook went out there, he went as an explorer. Yeah, he didn't go as an exploiter. Things that he discovered, maybe the British Empire exploited them thereafter, but he was there to figure out what the world was about. He's the guy that I think is the Harrington's clock that I think the guy's name was Harrington, who in Britain, who devised the best clock of all time.
Because he could keep a clock that was accurate to Greenwich Mean Time. Yes, it is that clock, and that is essentially what permitted Cook to sail routes that were not, were, because he could sail into the ocean without sight of land.
Yes, and you could pretty well figure, what was it? You could figure out your longitude, but not your latitude, or something like that.
Yeah.
Without, you needed a very accurate timepiece.
And that was the timepiece that stayed accurate to Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah, John Harrison
was accurate to Greenwich Mean Time and was preserved within the navigational equipment of the ship. That helped them navigate.
Yeah, so you needed an accurate timepiece. So Harrison was his name.
Yeah,
Harrison.
Correct. Yeah. But Cook.
Yeah, there is a Harrington grandfather clock, which you probably got it mixed up with, which is Amish type, but it was the Harrison clock, and he won a contest because the British government put out a contest saying you come up with this kind of clock and we'll give you this much amount of prize money. And then when he did, and Captain Cook proved that it worked really well, they tried to stiff the guy.
Yeah.
A long time to get it, like typical government. Eh?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. All right. Okay, moving on. Pakistan is basically saying that they're prepared to hold US-Iran talks, provided they're ready. and the irony here, of course, is that we've got USA saying, hey, we've been talking to Iran's prime minister, and Iran's prime minister saying, never heard of this. He hasn't called me.
Well, I said yesterday that a lot of people made a lot of money minutes after Trump made his announcement that he's not going to bomb the crap out of Iran power infrastructure. He gave them 48 hours. Now, the speculation is, of course, somebody tipped off all these people that he was going to make this announcement. But the 11th hour had come, basically, and it was either a go or no go. And a lot of people speculate that they did that. A lot of investors did the taco thing. Trump always chickens out, so they figured he was going to chicken out on that threat. That was a threat that he wouldn't be able to go on. So some smart people just kind of maybe guessed, but it still doesn't take away the suspicion that it was an insider move.
Well,
that Trump tipped off his buddies, hey, you better invest in this right now because I'm going to make this announcement.
Yeah.
Anyway, everyone is confused. Like Trump says, okay, well, they've come and they've approached me and they've offered they want negotiations, so I'm not going to bomb the crap out of them. I'm going to give them 5 days. And the Iranian says, we don't know what you're talking about. But what it seems to be is that Pakistan has been working in the background, trying to bring out some sort of try to be the middleman in a peace deal. Now, Oman had done that, and that didn't work because as negotiations went on, and the Omanis had said that the negotiations were going well. The Americans and the Israelis bombed the crap out of Iran in the middle of negotiations.
Yeah.
This time it's Pakistan trying to breach it. And there's supposed to be some messages between Turkey and Egypt and sort of backdoor messages going back and forth. But we don't know the substance of that, do we?
No. And there's supposed to also be, Turkey's had a go, Egypt's had a go, Oman has had a go. Yeah, exactly. And now Pakistan is setting into the breach. And I wish them well, but I don't. I suspect there's, at least on the American side, there is no desire for peace.
Well, right now they cannot open the Straits of Hormuz. They've got the greatest navy in the world, but they're worried, and they've kept the navy away from the Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah.
So if they've got the greatest navy in the world, and they said they were going to open up with that Navy, suddenly decide, no, we're not going to do that. We want somebody else to help us and do it. And they said, well, you're going to put your Navy in there? Well, if we put our Navy? No, we're not. You're going to do it. So no one's going to go in there. Now, there is an effort among 22 nations to try to figure out a way of opening up that strait and keep as much of it open as this conflict goes on. The irony of all this is the Iranian oil is flowing without sanctions into the market right now. They're making a fortune, and so is Russian oil making a fortune right now. That is now not on sanctions. So it's very clear that the United States is going to have to control the oil flow, and they could do that in a couple of different ways. One is attack and hold Karg Island, but only 4% of the world's oil comes out of Iran. I mean, a lot of it goes to China. But if you take Karg Island, you're putting your soldiers right in a place where they're easily attacked because it's an island. So right now, what the United States have is a lot of troops assembling in the area. They already have 50,000 that can go there or are already there within the theater, very close to the theater they can use. They're bringing in another 4,000 or 5,000 Marine specialists, 181st Airborne. And they also have coming up as up to 75,000 armed soldiers that can go into theater in a very short order. Now, what that means is they're probably going to put boots on the ground. It's just a matter of where are they going to do that.
Well, and also the other thing, the other thing that needs to also be discussed in all of this is the fact that Ukraine is sending 201 military experts to counter the Iranian drones in the Gulf. Now, why 201? Is that 200 soldiers plus one commander?
No, well, that's part of a situation. Like I had this argument with Paul. He says that that the United States doesn't need. Trump says it doesn't need Ukrainian expertise. But about 8 months ago, the Ukrainians presented to the U.S. military and Trump, saying that we have the best defense against these drones that the Iranians and the Russians have developed. And we have interceptor drones, like small, very inexpensive interceptor drones that are specifically for putting down drones. The United States rejected it at the time. Trump didn't want to deal with them because he's mad at Zelensky for not falling over dead anytime he says, make a peace deal and give everything to Russia. And so he's not happy about Zelensky. But what the U.S. military has done is gone ahead and asked for the help. And right now, Zelensky's people are in the Persian Gulf area countries, protecting those Persian Gulf countries with their technology that the U.S. has not been able to provide. And that's a marker right there. So they can say, oh, we don't need it. Well, their allies sure need it. And guess what? Those interceptors are also protecting U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf countries of Bahrain, Qatar, and UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So Trump can act like a child. I don't need you, don't want you, but guess what? His military is using them.
Yeah. All right. And the other thing in this particular thing here is that one of the Saudi leaders, anyway, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is basically made several calls to the White House saying, pushing Trump to continue the war in Iran.
I'm not sure what to believe.
According to the New York Times, right?
Yeah, according to the New York Times, and I'm not always, of course, New York Times has a fairly good reputation, but they are also very much Israel leaning. They will criticize Israel, but they won't, not very much. So that might be exaggeration. MBS or MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, he he's the guy that had Khashoggi murdered. So I'm not really too happy about listening to anything he has to say. He killed the journalist Khashoggi in Turkey, so I don't know what kind of a guy he is.
Well, but again, he is he is influential within the Saudi royal family. And not that it means anything, but at the moment he has the title of Crown Prince, which means he's the future king. That could change in a whim. That's knowing the way Saudis go, right?
Yeah, he's a more modern spokesperson for the Saudi government, if you could call that modern.
Yeah.
But it's more than it was. They're very restrictive Wahhabi type Islam going on in Saudi Arabia. So there you have a specific instance where you have a sponsor of terrorism, which is Saudi Arabia, who has in the past sponsored terrorism against its enemies, and you have the Shia regime in Iran, which has sponsored terrorists against its enemies, and you can see what the battle lines are here. Take Israel out of the question. You have the largest Shia nation against the principal Sunni nation at odds right there. The Saudis are Wahhabi, very strict Sunni Islam. The Shia are Iranians, very close to them. And in and among all this, the Houthis at the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula are a Shia offshoot. The Alawites in Syria are a Shia outlet, and the Hezbollah are a Shia militia in Lebanon. So it looks like Shias versus Sunnis, doesn't it? The only outlier there was Hamas, which is a Sunni type, but seems to get some of its support from Iran. Not as much as I think that people think they're getting from there, but they are getting some, or did get some.
You see, the Saudi position is always significant in here because, of course, Saudi, if we were to believe what's documented, Saudi Arabia has the largest oil reserves in the world.
It's very important too to the United States, because when the Saudi started pumping up its oil, it made a deal with the United States. It started to sell oil around the world. The United States could see that it was going to be an essential player in the world to supply the world with energy. So what the Saudis and the U.S. came up with, the Saudi says, you leave us alone, let us govern our own country. We'll pump up the oil, but we will sell it in U.S. dollars. And for that, we want protection from you. You protect us, leave us alone, let us run our own government. Don't bug us about human rights or anything like that. And we'll pump out the oil, and the transactions will be all in U.S. dollars. That set the tone for having all oil conducted in U.S. dollars, which gave the United States an incredible amount of power economically around the world.
And when you think about this was shortly after World War II anyway.
I can't remember when the actual treaty was signed that guaranteed American.
I believe it was around about the early 50s. But
I know Eisenhower was in there talking to them in the 50s. I don't know when they actually committed to using U.S. dollars only, though.
No, I don't remember that either, but I know it was in the 50s at some point.
And once that happened, the U.S. had, and all oil was conducted in U.S. dollars. That gave the U.S. an incredible amount of power, because every nation then had to buy U.S. dollars in order to buy energy, and everybody needed energy.
Yeah.
So it gave the United States a tremendous amount of power. I think one of the main, like the business about them having a missile and a bomb with a nuclear warhead is dumb. That they are no threat to the United States, no matter how many people keep rambling on about it. They do not have a delivery system to get to the United States. They do not have they do not have a nuclear warhead. They may have some refined stuff, but they don't have enough. And all of the centrifuges have been destroyed. Tulsi Gabbard and the NATO intelligence both confirmed that Iran cannot make a bomb now and won't be able to make a bomb for a very long time, and won't be able to probably put a delivery system that could reach the United States within 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. And if we go back to the Pakistan proposals for talks, is that really going to happen?
It's kind of funny. It could be a false negotiation, because as we see troops piling up over and over and over again, and more and more of them into the Persian Gulf, and the United States demanding $200 billion more for this war. If it is supposed to be a short-term war, why do they want $200 billion?
Yeah,
$200 billion tells you it's going to be a major operation. 200 billion.
It's already cost $1 billion a day, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe even more than that. And they want 200 billion more. And if this war is going to go 4 to 6 weeks, like they said it was, how come they need $200 billion?
Yeah, it's telling me 200 days.
Yeah, at least. It sounds like a major operation coming. Yeah. I think I thought Trump was smart enough to stay out of a boots on the ground type of conflict, but he might not have been. He's Bibi's bum boy, I think. Oh, I should have said it that way. I think he's Bibi's boy, though, really.
Yeah,
Bibi,
I know what you're saying.
By the chain on the nose. Yeah. And we will see. The Iranians don't know what they're talking about. But then again, on the other side of it, most of Iranians' leadership has been decimated. So what could have happened was the Pakistanis, with the help of Pakistan, they may have been able to find a renegade general, maybe a couple of renegade generals in the Iranian army that were willing to do a coup or something like that. There's any number of different reasons. If they put the men on take Karg Island, they'll get bombed to crap. It's a little island. They'll be bombed to crap. It's not a good idea. So I think maybe most of the operations will be something to secure the Straits of Hormuz. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Okay. In all of this one, Iran denies claims that it fired missiles on Diego Garcia.
Yeah, here's another. They claim this is another false flag operation by Israel. They say they don't have the missiles to go that far. And there was 2 missiles shot at Diego Garcia, but NATO intelligence cannot determine where that's from, or even U.S. intelligence can't determine where that's from. It's very interesting to note that U.S. intelligence has not declared where those missiles have come from. It is said that the missiles they don't know where they came from, and they didn't know that Iran had these kind of missiles. And Iran says they don't have those kind of missiles, and it was a false flag. They say that Israel is doing this to stoke, sort of to motivate the U.S. to use as much blood and treasure as Israel wants them to do to fight Iran. There's also an article in there about the Omani raid a couple of weeks ago, if you remember.
Yeah.
Everybody was outraged because the Iranians attacked the Oman oil field, and the Oman was the one that was trying to broker a peace deal. And then Iran says, no, we didn't do that. We didn't do that at all.
Yeah.
That's not in our interest to hit an Omani oil field. And everybody was surprised by that. Do you remember? What are they doing?
Yeah.
You could understand them hitting just about every other place, but Oman, I don't think Oman had an American base in it.
And
that was the difference.
Okay, so to be clear, Iran, Ricky puts up this thing that Iran has missiles that is able to hit Britain. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Right? It does not.
That's a big lie. That's a Fox lie. That's a Fox lie getting you all worked up.
Yeah.
Maybe be able to hit a little bit beyond. It could probably get maybe as far as Athens or something. Maybe a little farther than that. But
yeah, well, basically from Tehran, I think Britain's about 4,500 miles away, right? Yeah, it could get to it could certainly get to Turkey. It could certainly get to Greece. They're about 1,000 miles away.
According to U.S. CIA and intelligence, that they kind of conflict with the Trump regime. They even Tulsi Gabbard's reports say that they do not have a delivery system that can get that far yet.
Yeah.
They've limited their, they say, Iran, of course, they're going to lie, just like Israel lies, just like the United States lies. I mean, who's lying the worst? Who knows? Israel lies every day. The United States lies every second day, and Iran lies every day. So who's lying and who isn't? Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's very unlikely that Iran would have put that much effort into making a missile that go that far when almost all of its enemies are within range of 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
So, and to put that much effort into, and also to put a bomb, an A bomb. Remember, this is an A bomb. And let me point this out too. Everybody says, oh, they're going to be able to get a missile and shoot it all the way to the United States, and it's going to have a bomb on it. All right. The material they have, it will make an A bomb, right? Who has H bombs? The United States, Britain, France, Russia, China. They have A bombs. They have, H bombs. They have fusion bombs, which are hundreds of times more powerful than the A bomb. So if Iran does get a missile and it goes all the way to the States and the States don't detect it coming and it lands and it blows up, let's say it hits LA with an atomic bomb, what's going to happen next, right? There's going to be all kinds of stealth fighters and missiles going at Iran with fusion bombs, which will make Iran a ashtray. And Iran knows that.
Yeah.
Why do they want the A bomb? To protect themselves, maybe against Israel or Pakistan or the Taliban in Afghanistan. They may even, seriously. And who has pledged nuclear cover for Saudi Arabia? Pakistan has recently pledged that they will provide Saudi Arabia with a nuclear bomb if they need it against Iran. If you're in Iran, no matter if you're a bad guy or a good guy, what are you going to do? Oh boy, I better get a bomb, right?
Yeah. Okay. So here's to answer Rick's question. Where is Diego Garcia? Basically, I'd say it's about 700. It's an atoll that is about 750 kilometers southwest of Sri Lanka.
Think of the midpoint. Think this is an easier one. Think of the midpoint of the Indian Ocean. The midpoint of the Indian Ocean is very close to the midpoint of the Indian Ocean. That's what makes it so strategic.
And it's a volcanic island, basically.
It is a very strategic location because from that area you can control the Indian Ocean. Yeah, you can also attack many with the kind of technology the U.S. and some of the West has. You can attack from distance from there and be very isolated from attacks at it. Yeah. That's what made this so interesting, that a missile actually made it that. They shot whoever, if you want to believe the Iranians, it was the Israelis. If you want to believe the Fox News, it was Iran, but nobody knows for sure.
Yeah.
2 missiles were shot towards Diego Garcia, and one of them failed on the way, and the other one was shot out of the sky. But the U.S. has not officially determined where that missile's come from. So that's very important.
Yeah. And the important thing there is a British territory in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It's got a couple of thousand inhabitants, and that is all. I think the US UK combined air base has more population than the rest of the island put together.
Well, they pushed the island residents out of there when they first started making those military bases.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different islands there. Diego Garcia is probably, I think, the biggest one, and that's not even that big. But they took the residents, I think, and they took them to Mauritius. Now, what they want to do, what the Brits want to do, is give Diego Garcia back to Mauritius, which for some reason they think it should have belonged to. So I don't know. And the U.S. is steaming mad about that because they want that base there, and they want the UK to keep it so they can have their base without any questions asked.
But at the moment,
the UK was going to go back to Mauritius.
Yeah, the majority of the population on Diego Garcia is in that British American base.
Yeah, like I say, the residents of the original residents of the islands were taken away.
Yeah, oh yeah,
and some of them I think came back.
About 750 miles southwest of Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
and
it's a strategic location.
Yeah, and probably about I suppose about 1,000 miles east of Madagascar, northeast of Madagascar.
Yeah. Well, look at where Mauritius is, right? Mauritius is off the east coast of Madagascar, and then you take your bearings from Mauritius.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's south of the Maldives, east of the Seychelles, and yeah, exactly. You take your bearings off all those places, little idyllic islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Well, the key factor is it's nearly dead nuts in the middle of the Indian Ocean, which makes it a strategic, a strategic pearl. They want that to keep that way.
All right,
anyway,
we're going to have to,
and of course that's why the missiles were sent that way, because they have high-end aircraft there.
Yeah, and I don't believe they came from Iran. That seems a stretch to me.
Yeah, and we know how tricky Israel is, and how they've deceived the United States so many times to get away with it because of the powerful Israeli lobby, of course. But they're always forgiven every time they goon the United States. There's we're sorry.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we're going to have to wrap it at that point.
Yes, and I just like to point out that Israel, for some reason, is bombing Gaza again. I mean, it's a wasteland already, and they're bombing it. I don't know who they're bombing, but they're bombing it again. And they haven't finished the job in Gaza, just like everyone said they wouldn't be able to. They got to do it a different way. They got to do some kind of peace negotiations, anything to stop this madness.
But again, I've got the cause of the bombing of Gaza. There's too many Iranians and Houthi rebels there, you see.
Yeah, it's jam-packed with and of course the what the press does, particularly the left-wing press, goes on and on about Iran supplying Hamas. They probably supplied them with weapons, but they did not know that the attack was going to happen, and they would have probably told them not to do that.
Yeah.
And in the early days of the attack from Hamas into Israel, even the Israeli government said that the Iranian government probably didn't know anything about it, and didn't like the fact that happened, because it was going to open up the can of worms that the lid couldn't be put back on, and that's exactly what happened. It was against Iran's interest for Hamas to attack Israel at that time, because they knew that if things got out of control, they were going to lose power in the area. A good chance, and that's exactly what happened. They've lost a lot of power, a lot of influence in the area.
Yeah.
And
all right.
Anyway, so the truth is a hard thing to find. It comes out later, but in the meantime, if you watch Fox or CNN or something like that, it's pretty hard to find what's really happening.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we can leave it there anyway. And Dave?
Yes. Don't forget Gaza, and pray for peace. Without further ado, I bid you adieu.